Good morning. Good morning, all. Welcome to the 43rd Annual Pine Lake Cemetery Memorial Day Observance, a tradition since 1983 in which we remember and reflect on those who have given their lives for this nation and its noblest ideals. This event began when in 1983 the Reverend Jack Freed and Ledge Tomlinson, along with the support of 4 churches in West Bloomfield, Holy Spirit Lutheran, Pine Hill Congregational, Prince of Peace Catholic, and West Bloomfield United Methodist, initiated this important service in this historic place of rest. Over the years, we have been so grateful for the participation of those in additional religious communities, such as Spirit of Grace Church and Temple Israel. It is the result of the volunteer efforts of so many that make this day special. Individuals placed nearly 350 flags at the graves of fallen soldiers here in the Pine Lake Cemetery over the weekend. Ceremonial leadership by the West Bloomfield Police Honor Guard and Boy Scout Troop number 1022 of Bloomfield Hills will bring us into a spirit of reverence and awe, along with the recording of the stirring national anthem sung by New York City soprano Jenny Lynn Stewart. Amazing Grace played powerfully by bagpiper Terry Bradley, and the solemn taps by bugler David Roberts. Readings, prayers, and blessings from clergy and members of a variety of faith communities and civic organizations will give meaningful perspectives, as will the remarks offered by West Bloomfield Township Supervisor Jonathan Warshay. Gratitude to those with Civic Center TV for their commitment to making the proceedings of this important Memorial Day observance public and accessible to viewers so we can watch and rewatch into the future. To align with the theme of West Bloomfield's connection to the American Revolution on the 250th anniversary of its start, as engaged by Gina Gregory, president of the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society, and Kathy Bilger, recording secretary of Friends of the Governor Warner Mansion, Chris Cooper thoughtfully focused on Levi Green, who lived at the end of his life at West Bloomfield in the design and production of T-shirts highlighting Green's involvement in the significant Battle of Bennington in Vermont with the Albany Rangers on August 16th, 1777. So raise your hand if you're wearing one of those blue T-shirts. All right. You've probably seen Levi Green already on those T-shirts. The Rangers and other militias protected the stockpiles of American supplies from a raid by the British, who were moving southward toward Albany, New York. The victory over the British resulted in the loss of Iroquois supporters and the eventual success at the Battle of Saratoga in the autumn, in which the British Army surrendered. The Battle of Bennington facilitated this major turning point in the Revolutionary War, and it's the Battle of Bennington that is particularly highlighted on those blue T-shirts. Wearing the T-shirts are the many representatives of the Pine Lake Cemetery Association, who continue to graciously host this gathering and make it a peaceful and serene place to be on Memorial Day. So thank you to the Pine Lake Cemetery Association. Rather than permit this day to be about eras in the past, we, like those who we recall here now, can be energized by this time together to change things for the better, to be revolutionaries of remembrance, to carry forward what those who strived for liberty in all ages truly sacrificed to guarantee and preserve those freedoms for us. We can work as well toward liberation. We want to, at this time, ask all those who have served our veterans to please raise your hands now. What you have given of your terms of service has given us the chance to do so much, and also has given us the opportunity to express ourselves in revolutionary movement and action for positive transformation and the greater good. Thank you can only begin to respond to all that you have made possible for all of us in the present and into the future. I invite now the Reverend Elizabeth Hurd of the West Bloomfield United Methodist Church to open us now with an invocation.
Let us be in prayer and reflection. Holy One, we give you thanks for all of those who have served and sacrificed for the highest ideals of this beautiful country. We pray that those ideals of liberty and equality, of justice and of mercy may direct us and guide us in our day-to-day. May we feel your spirit here with us as we celebrate, remember, memorialize, and may we carry those ideals out into the world. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Hurd. I will invite now the West Bloomfield Police Department Honor Guard to present the colors and place the wreath, followed by the singing of the national anthem and then the direction in the Pledge of Allegiance. And I will announce the pledge at that time.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our
I now invite Marcus Clapp of Boy Scout Troop 1022 of Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, to come forward and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Hello, everyone. I ask that you place your hand over your heart or salute, and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2.
We are honored to have with us this day our West Bloomfield Township Supervisor, Jonathan Warshay, who last year offered our keynote address at this event. It is a joy to have him back this year giving some remarks on this notable occasion, and he will also be placing a wreath on behalf of the township.
Good morning. I'd like to also recognize Clerk Debbie Binder, Trustee Michael Patton, and our Police Chief Dale Young as well. Today our community comes together not just as neighbors, but as stewards of a shared legacy. 250 years ago, the American Revolution began with ordinary people choosing extraordinary courage. They were not larger-than-life figures. They were families, farmers, shopkeepers, and young people who believed that freedom was worth defending. On this Memorial Day, we honor the generations who carried that spirit forward. The men and women who served and those who never returned home stood in the long line of sacrifice that began at Lexington and Concord. Their service reminds us that the promise of America has always depended on people willing to protect it. A revolution of remembering invites us to do more than look back. It challenges us to make a remembrance an active force in our lives. When we teach our children about service, when we support our veterans, when we strengthen the bonds of our community, we continue the work that others gave us to defend. So as we gather here, families, friends, veterans, and new neighbors, let our remembrance be more than a moment of silence. Let it be a commitment to live with purpose, to care for one another, and to uphold the freedoms that define us. May our gratitude today be worthy of their sacrifice, and may this 250th anniversary remind us that the story of America is not only something we inherit, but it's something that we build together. Thank you.
As we do take these moments to pause and reflect in silence, as we remember the sacrifices of so many, I also ask us to especially remember this year in our thoughts and reflections in these brief moments, the people of Temple Israel. As Temple Israel sustained a very tragic attack that has compromised their feeling of safety and security and caused great damage to their building. I also want to lift up and hope we will lift up in our silence their resilience in the face of adversity, and to also acknowledge the great courage of the first responders and the staff of Temple Israel and Shenandoah Country Club and many others in the West Bloomfield Township area that have stepped forward and really shown remarkable strength and solidarity with the people of Temple Israel. So let us now enter into a moment of silence and reflection. Sarah Schraffenberger from the Prince of Peace Catholic Church will now come forward and read the 23rd Psalm for us.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Steve Klein, President of the Conservation of Waterford Lands and participant with the Pine Hill Congregational Church, will now share a reading from the Hebrew Scriptures from the book of Exodus, chapter 3, verses 7 through 10, as the God of Israel hears and responds to the cry of the people who are oppressed in Egypt, sending Moses to liberate them.
And the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people which are in Egypt, and have heard their cry by reason of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrows. And I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land into a good land, and a large unto a land, flowing with milk and honey, unto the place of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Now therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel is come unto me, and I have also seen the oppression wherewith the Egyptians oppress them. Come now, therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt.
Thank you, Steve. At this time, Cindy Hopkins from the Pine Hill Congregational Church will read from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 4, verses 16 through 20, in which Jesus reads from the book of the prophet Isaiah, affirming that the mission expressed in the words he reads are embodied in him.
Luke 4:16-20. When Jesus came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, he went to the synagogue on the Sabbath day, as was his custom. He stood up to read, and the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was given to him. He unrolled the scroll and found the place where it is written, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free, to proclaim this year of the Lord's favor." Then he rolled up the scroll, gave it back to the attendant, and sat down. The eyes of all in the synagogue were fixed on him.
Thank you very much, Cindy. Raman Singh, West Bloomfield resident and executive director of the Interfaith Leadership Council of Metropolitan Detroit, will now share a reading of a portion of an address given on this year's Memorial Day, by representatives of the Disabled American Veterans Organization, recalling that many have given their lives for this country for over 250 years.
Take good care of the children. Those were the last words Isaac Davis spoke to his wife as he headed off to war. Hannah Davis later recalled how serious her husband was earlier that morning as he and his men made final preparations for the impending fight, as if he already knew his fate. Mere hours later, he was shot and killed on the battlefield. A British musket ball struck him in the heart in the early volleys of the battles of Lexington and Concord. On April 19, 1775, he was among the first Americans to die in the Revolutionary War. He was a regular man, a blacksmith by trade, driven by a belief that what he had was worth defending. In the months leading up to the inevitable fight, he trained his men hard, setting up a rifle range behind his home and rehearsing drills. He labored to make bayonets for his unit. As word spread through the villages and towns that the British were coming, Captain Isaac Davis gathered the Acton Minutemen in his home to eat an early breakfast and prepare for the march to Concord. He knew the cost of freedom, and he was willing to pay for it. And for 250 years, others have done the same. They left their families, they left their homes, they left behind people who loved them. The legacy of Captain Davis and his meticulous preparation and determination to stand and fight, even when the odds were stacked against him and his men. They, and all those who have died in service, answered their country's call. They served, they sacrificed. And in doing so, they entrusted us with the most important things they left behind: their children, their families, their legacies, and our freedoms. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Raman. This being the 250th anniversary of the start of the American Revolution, many of us think of battles fought in New England, but rarely recognize that even in Greater West Bloomfield and the surrounding area, we have connections to that important point in our nation's history. We are privileged to have Kathy Bilger, Recording Secretary of the Governor Warner Mansion in Farmington, Michigan, and Gina Gregory, President of the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society, providing for us more insight into Levi Green and the relationship of Farmington, Farmington Hills, and West Bloomfield to the American Revolution, as well as some personal connections. Kathy Bilger, beyond her work with the Governor Warner Mansion, is editor and social media director of the Michigan Oral History Association and is a National History Day judge. She is a local historian and genealogist as well. Gina Gregory has been president of the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society since 2013. She supported her aunt's family history research work, which resulted in 2 published books. Gina is a 5th great-granddaughter of John Hart, signer of the Declaration of Independence. I welcome Kathy and Gina to present our keynote address this day.
Hi, Gina. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. We'll take a little moment here. We've never met. Would you like? You can go first. I just need to leave right after. So. Oh, okay. Well, thank you, everyone, for inviting me tonight to speak about Levi Green. He was a young man who made a choice, a very difficult choice. He chose courage. He chose commitment when a lot of other people didn't. We want to think that every man in the colonies served in the American Revolution, and that was not quite true. Levi was born in 1758 in Coventry, Rhode Island. Coventry was a lovely city. His father was a Baptist minister. He had many cousins. His family had been in Coventry, Rhode Island almost since the beginning. Coventry, Rhode Island is the place that gave us the phrase separation of church and state. The Quakers in Coventry, Rhode Island were also the ones who gave us the first beginnings of the word equality, an important concept these days. Levi's father, though he had a very popular ministry in Coventry, chose to move to Lanesboro, Massachusetts, which was on the border of New York. He wanted to serve the people. Levi heard about Concord, Lincoln, and Lexington a year before he joined up. He had to make the decision. And at 18 years of age, he made the decision. Only 20% of the men in Massachusetts chose to fight on the American side. Of course, that means you're fighting your country because you're British. Levi made that choice. He went to Albany, New York, and he enlisted. I have to find my space here because I want to get it exactly right. He enlisted in Captain Alexander Baldwin's company of the Albany Rangers. Their duty was to patrol the waters and to seek intelligence to help us win this war. Patrolling the waters was dangerous. The Hudson River was key to winning the war. Control the waters, you control the war. And they patrolled. In December of 1776, Levi and his company took a sloop down to Fort Constitution and spent the winter on the island where Fort Constitution was. If you can imagine spending winter on a very cold island, probably not, but they did. They patrolled. They took the sloop back up to Peekskill. They came back again. They kept those waters safe for our American troops. In April of 1777, the sloop returned to Albany, New York, and Levi was discharged from service, having served about 9 months. In those days, you enlisted for a shorter time than you do now. However, Levi was committed. He went home. He worked on the farm for a bit because, you don't get paid a whole lot, and you kind of need to keep your farm going. But he came back. He enlisted in July. He came back and he served under Captain Newell, and he marched to Bennington. But then he left before the battle. He hired a substitute. Now, that was also very common, but he wasn't done yet. He was still committed. You see, while he left the Rangers, he did leave a substitute, but then he joined the Berkshire Boys. When the call came, he was ready. General Burgoyne was marching towards Bennington, towards Albany. He was looking for supplies, namely horses. He was looking to divide the American colonies because the British plan was very simple. Divide and conquer. Split the colonies up and take them one by one. And that's how you win the war. That was their plan. Levi answered the call. He already had a substitute. He didn't need to go back, but he did. He went to the Battle of Bennington with the Berkshire Boys. We know this. He remembers this. We have Levi's own words, actually. He wrote them in his pension. He remembered the men. He did not remember the companies. But remembering the men helped us find out who and where he was. So, that Battle of Bennington. A couple of interesting things happened that made us win that battle. You see, General Stark was clever. He kind of made it look like we were in retreat while he stationed troops in the woods. He found, through the intelligence of our Albany Rangers and a few others, they found out that the Hessians who were fighting alongside the British were told, don't fire on anybody who's wearing a piece of white paper on their hat. Well, you can imagine what General Stark did. There were a lot of men wearing white paper that day. Levi doesn't tell us about any of that. What he tells us about is with his company under Captain Daniel Brown, they were able to breach a breastwork. For those who don't know, a breastwork is basically just a big mound of dirt. You stand behind this nice tall mound of dirt and you fire. But they were somehow able to capture that breastwork, capture a bunch of prisoners. They marched them to a meeting house. What Levi remembers, and this was difficult for him, he remembers marching the prisoners to the meeting house and then having to go back and clean the battlefield. Remove the wounded, remove the dead bodies. That stays with him more than almost anything else. Afterwards, he went back to the meeting house to help escort the prisoners back to Boston. Some of the prisoners tried to escape. This also stays in Levi's mind because 4 prisoners were killed in their attempt to escape. You know, death was something that he remembered more than battles. He grieved for those 4 people who were killed unnecessarily. So Levi helped escort the prisoners as far as Lanesboro. He went back to his farm for a short time. And then he returned yet again. He returned back to Bennington. He returned to serve under Colonel Stafford, a distant relative. A lot of his relatives were in this fight. You know, I think you fight harder when you're fighting with your neighbors, your friends, and your family. Levi does not talk anymore about the war. We know that he did serve because he received a pension. You have to serve 2 years in the Revolutionary War in order to qualify for a pension. Levi applied for a pension in 1832. He did not receive it until he was living here in West Bloomfield. He received his pension starting in 1840. Levi would receive his pension for all of 11 years. He died in 1851. Those 2 years that he gave of his life, he received less than $300. But I will say, the money that he received for his pension enabled him to go back to New York for one last trip. He was quite elderly. His wife was elderly. But that pension money enabled him to go back and visit family because family was important to him. So that is Levi's story. I think if Levi were here, he would say, do the right thing. Thank you.
Good morning. Is this look okay for me? Okay. Before I begin, I want you to know that my connection to Gina's family was almost forgotten. No one in Gina's family talked about the connection. The information was written, but not shared aloud. So I encourage you to always share your family history. When did your family first come to America? Share your story with your next generation. We all have stories to share. Good morning. I'm here as John Hart, one of the 5 representatives from New Jersey to the Continental Congress, and I want to tell you about my life. I was baptized in the Presbyterian Church in 1713. This information has value later. When I was 23 years old, I purchased 193 acres of wilderness before marrying Deborah Scudder. We had 13 children. My father and I both got caught up in land disputes, which required us to purchase our lands twice. This was a time of great unrest over land titles, which led to hostile confrontations between proprietors and farmers. Because the royal government did not help us, many farmers joined extra-legal militias to protect each other. Although not happy about it, we paid the necessary sums to keep our land. On a happier note, in 1747, I donated some of my land to local Baptists looking for a place to build their meeting house. We were not Baptists, so this donation was seen by them as a truly friendly act. In 1750, I was elected to the highest elected town office, which required support from Presbyterians, Baptists, and others. The next year, my brother and I bought a mill. In 1755, I was elected to the Justice of the Peace and later the Board of Chosen Freeholders. I was appointed to the Court of Common Pleas. I purchased another 400 acres. I was a successful businessman and farmer. I could afford to be a civil servant. In 1776, in June, I was elected to represent New Jersey at the Second Continental Congress as part of the delegation that changed from opposing the idea of independence to supporting it. As the revolution took form, even though I had served the colonial government, I supported the protest movement. I was appointed to more committees. I signed 15,600 bills of credit, and I was known as Honest John. Please pass it around and then give it to my husband in the gray baseball hat after the program's over, because I'm going to be scooting out. When the British Army pursued Washington's retreating through New Jersey in December 1776, I was forced to leave my home and hide. The British and Hessian soldiers raided my farm. After their defeat, I returned home. In 1778, I hosted a dinner for General Washington after the Continental Army left Valley Forge and crossed into New Jersey. 12,000 Continental soldiers camped on our fields and neighboring farms. My wooden fences were used for campfires, and our spring was used for drinking water. Washington held a war council meeting nearby. Then, 4 days later, the Continental Army was said to have success at Monmouth, and this was thought to be a turning point in the American Revolution. Several months later, I was ill with kidney issues and died. I was a civil servant for 29 years. Literally, I put my life and my fortune on the line by signing the Declaration of Independence. I was never reimbursed for my costs of raising and supplying our local militia. When the war ended, most of my property was sold for a pittance to pay off my debts, and my sons moved away. Thank you.
I realized that I did not introduce myself at the beginning of this event. I've been introducing everyone else, but failed to do that. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Reverend Dr. Charles Backer, pastor of the Pine Hill Congregational Church, formerly of West Bloomfield, now of Farmington Hills, Michigan. And I did just want to briefly mention a couple of things by way of announcements going forward. Big item is that next year the service will take place on Monday, May 24th, 2027, and we'll be moving back to the 10 a.m. time next year. So please do note the change in time from this year. Also save the date for Saturday, October 3rd at 11 a.m. When the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society presents the Pine Lake Cemetery self-paced walking tour. Please join if you can. And just a little personal plug, I've attended a couple of these, or 3 of them, and they are well worth attending. There are many amazing stories of people here in this cemetery, and they get fleshed out at that event. So please try to come if you can. And now Pastor Abby Boberitz of Waterford, Michigan, and Assistant Minister of North Congregational Church in Farmington Hills will provide a benediction for us, followed by taps played by bugler David Roberts.
Good morning. As we leave this place, may we remember and honor those who gave up their lives so we may live. May we remember not to take freedom for granted, but instead may we work at it, nurture it, and protect it. May we honor the ultimate sacrifice of the fallen by dedicating our lives to the pursuit of peace, justice, and the preservation of freedom. May we go out into the world to join God in the work of love, of peace, and of justice. May we go forth with open hearts, ready to share love, with open minds, continually seeking wisdom, and with caring hands to serve with compassion. May you go out and serve one another in love. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord shine his face upon you and give you peace. Amen.
We are appreciative of the contributions toward the preservation and maintenance of this important cemetery site. And if you are so moved to do so, you may make donations here in this box before you leave. And again, thank you for considering that opportunity. Do also take some time to walk through the cemetery and join in your own revolution of remembrance, knowing that it takes purpose and intentionality to set aside moments from the busyness of life to honor those who inspire our own giving of self and service in critical ways. It is truly a great thing that we are not relegating ourselves to a status of silence, but rising up to remember and renew ourselves in what is most vital and necessary about being a citizen of the United States. Thank you all for being here for this service.